Yes, it did. But I enjoyed my time at Ardenne beyond measure. I often say it's my best, one of the best 7-year period of my life.
So welcome back, Ardenites everywhere. We're in a great conversation with the legendary Devon Pele Harris, a great past student of Ardenne who has gone on to distinguish himself in so many ways. We have been talking to him about his early years and life at Ardenne. We want to resume the conversation with a look at the bobsled years in his life. So I actually went on YouTube and I saw this little video. I'm going to run a bit of it, Devon, and then I'm going to ask you to talk us through it a little bit. So
sure. So this is the 1988 team. As you're looking at it, I'm over there on the left. I'm the second guy in after the driver. And this is obviously the start. Oh, so this is day one. I just saw that the push bar collapsed.
You remember everything as if it were yesterday, eh?
What's that?
You remember everything as if it were yesterday.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is day one, heat 2. What most people don't know, Mark, is that this was our first ever 4-man bobsled race. So we've been racing 2-man bobsled since the team got started. And during the Olympic Games, we decided that we would. So this year they're showing a part. Yeah, Mikey look like he's stuck. Yep. So this is Michael White. He was a private in the Army from 3G. That's me. They're running off to go get what we call the scabbards to protect the runners on the sled. So yeah, during the Olympics, we decided that we're going to enter the 4-man. And so we trained for a week. The guy on the very back, Chris Stokes, he got maybe 3 days of training. He had never seen a bobsled before. And we entered the Olympic race. The audacity of being Jamaican, I would say.
Oh, that's just amazing.
I think what's coming up here now is a crash. Here it comes.
Oh.
Yep. So when you're in a sled.
What was going on inside of your heart and your mind?
I was embarrassed. People look at it and go, "Wow, weren't you scared? Did you think you were going to die?" And people ask me that don't understand Jamaicans and how we were worried after that crash about coming home.
Look at that moment there with the head.
Yes, that's Dudley's head. So what you have is, let me talk you through this. It's the third heat, first run of the second day, and we came off the hill with the 7th fastest start time. It just kind of came together. And poor Dudley Stokes, he's basically seeing a new track because he had never gone that fast before. And I remember when we came out of corner 8, we hit the wall. You always don't want to hit the wall. I'm right behind Dudley and I'm thinking, okay, we have a long straightaway going down to 9. We should be good. And then we hit the wall again, which is not good because it means that we missed what you call the take on, the spot where you're supposed to go onto the corner. And so I expected that the sled would wave. It would go up and down. And if you watch the video, you'll see it go kind of in and out of frame. And I anticipated that we would have come out on the other end, hit the wall really hard, but be up. But we didn't, obviously, we crashed. So when I'm looking at the video, what I realize is that at the point on the corner where the sled is supposed to be going down, we were going up. And I became a driver after that. I've driven in 2 Olympics. So what I do when I'm in a situation like that, I literally feel my eyes just get big. And I'm looking for that one spot where I know I need to be. And I basically just drag the sled and you come off and you slam the wall and you go down your merry way. Dudley didn't do that. And so there was no wall left. So the only place to go was over. And so I just remember skating down on my head, embarrassed that we had failed in front of the entire world, that embarrassed that we had given credence to all the naysayers, all the people who felt that.
But Devon, this iconic moment when you were walking out, look at that.
So, yes, I tell you about this. I am trying to exit stage left as quickly as possible. And people started to cheer. People started to, we love you, we love you. And one guy reached over and shook my hand, and then, was shaking hands all the way down. It was and if I could put on my motivational speaker hat, it's telling. I speak all the time about the fact that winning is not always about the final score. So success isn't always that final result you get, because if you look at our experience in totality, the first time we saw a bobsled was September '87. And the first time we were racing a 4-man bobsled was that race. We came off the hill with the 7th fastest start time. And so what you found was that people could relate to our experiences, i.e., there are so many people who have these crazy dreams that they are reluctant to go after. And we demonstrated to them that it's okay to dream and to go after it. And even if you don't hit it, you would have grown, you would have learned some things, and inspire some people along the way.
Here are moments that you're living the dream.
Yes. So top left, maybe I should start top right as I'm looking at it. You can see the tropical background and a makeshift sled. Yes. So that's how we trained.
Where was that?
This is in our park camp. This is right down by the air wing. And we had this makeshift sled, and we would push this thing 3 hours every afternoon during the week, 6 hours on a Saturday morning. There was a big boom box with like Grace Jones, pushing up to the bumper, baby, and blah, blah. And that's also how we pushed. That's also how we trained. And I talk about that picture all the time, because everything that we're doing in that picture there, Mark, is wrong. The position of the hands, the backs, the knees, the elbows, it's not correct. But we were in Lake Placid in September '87, and we did one push training session with the Americans. And so we went home doing what we thought we had learned from them. The top left is us at the Olympics in Calgary. Not necessarily obvious to you guys, but so much better, so much improved. Again, success, most of it is skill-based. And when you practice something long enough and well enough, you'll get better at it. There's a guy in the back behind us there, Mark. Yes, that's an Ardennite. Most people don't know there were 2 Ardenites on the Jamaica bobsled team, the very first one. That's Caswell Allen. I remember. Yes. Yeah, he was a year behind me. He lives in Toronto now.
What was he doing though? He was trying to make the team, or did he make it?
Well, he was on the Olympic team. He wasn't on the sled that raced, but he was on the Olympic team. Okay. He had come to the team trials and then moved off to Toronto afterwards, and then came down to Lake Placid to meet up with us and train. The bottom left is me there at the Calgary Olympics.
Looking all erudite and, steely-eyed.
Yeah,
What was going on in your mind then?
Dude, if I didn't see that picture, I would not have remembered it. I've taken so many. But I don't know what I'm telling them. And then the bottom right is me in Albertville, France. I'm the driver. I'm the guy up front pushing the 2-man. So I competed in that. And the picture in the center here is my uniform from Nagano. So that's my 3rd Olympic Games. And I was a driver in those Olympics. Finished 29th from 42, which at the time was the best finish Jamaica had ever had.
Wonderful. Being the driver is the star guy, right?
Yeah, so I tell you, maybe I should talk about how I got on the team. But so you had to do these tests. And the brakemen had to score more than the drivers. knowing nothing about bobsledding, I wanted to be a brakeman, just like how, you know, I wanted to be an officer, because that was a more difficult thing to do. I don't know why I think that way. And then when I got into the sport, I realized that the driver, the brakeman was nobody. You can easily replace him, right? The driver is a guy. I'm like, can I be a driver? But I was too scared. I tell people all the time that I'm scared of speed and height. I kind of am. I've jumped from a plane and I've driven bobsleds. So after the Olympics, I became a driver. It's a lot more work. It's way more intense. But you have control over your own destiny. It's on your shoulder, and that's what I want. I want it to be on my shoulder. I want to be the guy with the pressure to deliver.
That's a special gene that's inside of your coding, your genetic coding, isn't it?
Either that or a screw is missing. I'm not sure. But no, I guess so. I want, you know, and again, I blame my grandmother because the thing that she did for me was not just inspired me to want to be a soldier. It was inspired me to do things that other people think was impossible.
Are you hard on yourself, Devon, when you?
Way too hard. I am learning to temper that down now, Mark, but it's ridiculous. I used to be ridiculous. And I describe my early years, I use the analogy of, you know, being in on one end of a rose garden and trying to get to the other end and never pausing, not once, to smell the rose. Smell the roses, you know? I mean, I look at my experience in Newcastle, for example, and we know it's all of us who have been through it know it's all challenging. I made it 10 times worse for myself because I was.
How so?
I had this idea in my head that hands down I must be the best recruit in the entire intake. And I was coming from Ardenne, where certainly in the things that I did, I was at the top, right? And I was praised. And in Newcastle, nobody gets praised. You may hear once in a while a well done, but other than that, it's a criticism all the way. It's never good enough. And so when you're in an environment like that and you put a guy like me who expects perfection, hence the foolishness I did at Boys Champs, it made my experience in Newcastle worse. And when I went to Sandhurst, my goal at Sandhurst was not to graduate. That was a foregone conclusion. My goal at Sandhurst was to win the overseas cane as the best overseas student.
Did you?
And I failed. Well, yeah, I broke my ankle. And so, you know, even at the end, my platoon commander was trying to get me evaluated to possibly win. And I wanted to win it, but there was a part of me that knew that I didn't deserve it. Because, you know, I couldn't have done all the things that I needed to do. The worst part about that, if I could just digress a minute, is there was a guy from Nepal, and I don't even know his first name. I only know him as Mr. Ajay. I saw him as my main competition for the cane, and he saw me as his main competition. And for the entire course, we watched each other suspiciously. Oh, crap, he's a corporal. Oh, he's a sergeant, you know? In the end, neither of us won. What I call the Arabian dark horse, a guy from Saudi Arabia won the cane. And it wasn't until that night, Mr. Ajay and I sat down and had a chat, and I discovered the guy's from humble beginnings as well. And so I guess in a way we're both cut from the same cloth. But I just think that time that was spent at Sandhurst could have been so much more meaningful.
When you look back, when you reflect on just how you are and this competitive nature and this wanting to win, is there anything in your Ardenne experience that you can tie that back to? Was that besides the athletics and?
Well, I tell you, like from the beginning, Ardenne is competitive, man. I mean, it starts in a classroom, and you just have to turn up at prize giving to see, Mark. Just reflect on prize giving, and you see what all that's going on. But just even before that, just Because the standards are high, and you have to step up, especially if you have a competitive gene.
Who are
But
your best? Who are your best teachers?
it's not even a fair question, because my
Madam
favorite
Dundas?
subjects were French and geography. So I'm going to say Madam Dundas and Mrs. Sutton, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yes.
but I had some great teachers along the way. People remember Mrs. Roper. I think she taught me math in first form. Miss Baxter was our form teacher, I think, in second form, and our history teacher, who I just used to chat so much. I said, Devon Harris, what's wrong with this little roundhead boy, do you mind? You know, so it's like I was a chatterboxing class. But you know, so I guess one of the defining moments for me at Ardenne, and one of the things that, in addition to Brownie inspiring me to train as hard as I did, in second form, we're in woodwork, three period class, last 3 periods of the day, and you know, I was playing football one day and somebody stole my geometry set. So I'm in woodwork class and I don't have a geometry set, and I asked one of my friend to lend me, I don't know, it's protractor. And the dude embarrassed me in class. And it was at the start of the class, you know, 3 periods. And Mark, I put my head on the desk. I didn't cry. I bawled for 3 periods. The teacher didn't even try to stop me. And as soon as the bell rang, I just got up. Didn't wait until we were dismissed. I just got up and I walked a half a tree by myself, and I said, you know what? I want to come back next year, join the track team, and train hard and run left the whole of them. And so that got my track journey started. But I mean, it's one of those things when you look back and it's hard to imagine how that could have led to me being on the bobsled team. But if you really break it down, that was the genesis. Because as I started training, and that year between third form, that summer between third form and fourth form, when I really made my run, I started dreaming about competing in the Olympics. And I wanted to compete in the 84 games in LA. Because as far as I knew, no high school student had ever done that. I'm like, man, I want to be the first one to do it. You know, well, we know that didn't happen, right? But then I ended up competing in bobsledding 4 years later. So it all worked out well.
So we have a lot to thank that unnamed Ardennite.
Yeah, I'm not going to embarrass him. I'm a
Doctor who embarrassed you in the woodwork class, eh? They unleashed the beast in you.
Yes, it did. But I enjoyed my time at Ardenne beyond measure. I often say it's my best, one of the best 7-year period of my life. And I'm just grateful for the experience. I'm grateful for everyone that I interacted with, because in one way or another, they all contributed to what you see here now.
I want to get to the bobsled, but I have to ask you maybe about 2 of our iconic principals, Mr. Roberts and Mr. Evans. Start with Mr. How did they impact your life? And
so let's start with the Phantom. Well, you know, he and I have always had a good relationship, I would say. You know, I mean, obviously not everybody's gonna like a particular person. I hear people with some, you know, not so flattering stories, but I think we all know how much of a disciplinarian he was. You know, a high standard kind of guy, and I thrive in an environment like that. I think, you know. So I had a really good relationship with Banks. I was reminding Atticus when we did School Challenge that last year that we didn't have a teacher training us or coaching us. We did it all by ourselves. Right. And he trusted us so much. He gave us a key to one of the blocks. I think it was right above where the old library was. And it was just us. We never had no friend and company, no girls. We practiced, and at the end of practice, we locked up and went home. So we had that kind of relationship. Mr. Roberts, the gentleman, right?
Yes.
The philosopher.
Mr. Roberts.
Yeah, man. Just wow, words kind of escape me. Just in a very kind of quiet way is really influential, right? I guess he taught us psychology in sixth form, and I guess maybe because of his understanding of psychology,
Right.
and maybe the fact that he lived in the U.S. for a while, he had not this kind of draconian kind of attitude that Mr. Banks had, and that was, quite soothing, and I think students in general appreciated that too.
Excellent. Now let's get back to the bobsled. So they made a movie.
Go figure.
What role did you have in that?
None. I wanted to act in it, and they told me I was too ugly. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So we spent after the Olympics. I made several trips to New York, talking to the writers about our experiences, and they took copious notes. And every 6 months or so, you'd hear them. They're filming. Oh, they're not filming. They're filming, and then. 93, January 93 or somewhere around there. I was now living in New York, and I got a call, and they say, hey, they're filming in Calgary. Would you like to go? And I'm like, absolutely. So it was really cool, Mark, to be on a Hollywood movie set, first of all, right? It's not every day that a youth from Waterhouse end up on a Hollywood movie set. And then—
These are the actors.
These are the actors. I'll tell you about them in a sec. And then it was really flattering to watch them film a movie about part of your life, So on the very left is Malik Yoba. By the way, all of these guys are of Jamaican descent, except Rawley Lewis, who is on the very right there, Junior, the rich kid. So I think Malik Yoba and Leon, their grandfather are Jamaican. Dougie Doug's dad is Jamaican. So people ask all the time which character played me in the movie, and I usually gravitate to the Yul Brynner character, not because he's mean, but he was a dreamer. He was a guy that wanted to go to Buckingham Palace to live, remember? And so I'm the guy who stood in Waterhouse and looked upon forest hills and dreamt about greener pastures as well. So it's kind of cool to to hang out with them. I'm loosely in touch with them now.
So did you get money for this?
Yeah, we got some money up front, and that was paid to all of us, whether or not the movie was going to be filmed. And then there are promises of royalty. But according to Disney, the movie did not make a profit, so we're still waiting on our royalty check.
Really?
Yes. I kid you not, seriously.
With all these replays and all that?
I've been to France. I've seen the movie in Japan. I've seen the movie in Korea, and the movie still hasn't made a profit.
You need a lawyer. Check Atticus.
All right.
Okay, so that was a real exhilarating time for you, no doubt. And the other guys, right? They felt great about this, a movie actually being made about your lives. That kind of make you the stuff of legend, eh?
It's the stuff that, think about where my journey started is really it's a Hollywood story, right? Of all the things I dreamt about doing growing up, I never dreamt that I'd have a movie being made about part of my life. So it's flattering, special.
So you took this. So when did you leave the Army? So you were in the Army when you were on the team.
Yes. So my first two Olympics were while I served in the JDF. So while I was in France, 92, I'm thinking about my life and what I want to do afterwards. And I knew I wanted to leave the Army because my time was coming to an end in December 92.
The Army after about what?
That would have been 8 years. So a year of training and I had a 7-year commission. So I wanted to leave. I didn't know what I wanted to do because, believe it or not, when I was at Ardenne, I never wanted to see another book. looking forward to join the army. I was going to run up and down and fire guns. And I did run up and down and fire guns, but then they gave me a big stack of books to study too. So I got tricked. But even so, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I picked up the Sunday Gleaner one day, and there was this course on hospitality management. I'm like, yeah, I like traveling. I like meeting people. So that gave me a focus now for, what I would do when I leave the Army. So I left the Army in December 92, moved to New York, started studying hospitality management. I guess you could describe me as a college dropout because I never finished it because I could not shake this bobsled thing. I couldn't. And so I ended up going back to bobsledding after a 4-year hiatus and competed in my third Olympics.
But then you moved into your own consultancy because
yeah. So while I'm working to get back to bobsledding, I met a guy called himself Mike Silk. He was the cousin of Garnet Silk and Tony Rebel. He was your agent. And, they say some people come into your life for a season or a reason. Mm-hmm. So he comes and he wants to be my agent, and that kind of sounds cool. I've never had an agent, and I'm like, all right, cool, let's do this. And he's telling me about this thing called motivational speaking, which strangely enough, I'd never heard of before. And I said, that sounds good, but after the Olympics, because my army training tells me that the first principle of war is selection and maintenance of the aim. I do these things all the time. I'm one of them soldiers who this thing does flow through my blood. So I'm like, so the aim right now is to go to the Olympic Games. So let's focus on that first. Well, Mark, he did absolutely nothing to help me to get to the Olympics. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But he painted the seed in my head, planted the seed in my head of being a motivational speaker. So fast forward a few years, I'm in Salt Lake City training to qualify for the Olympics, working with some other guys. And I'm like, hey, after the Olympics, I want to be a motivational speaker. What exactly that means, I don't know, but that's what I want to do. So my new agent comes to my room and sticks a VHS in the VCR. And it's a guy called Vince Pacenti, a speed skier from Canada, competed in one Olympics in '92. And he says, can you do this? I'm like, yeah, I could do that. So I go to the Olympics and I come back and I started speaking for free at Rotary clubs and schools and wherever. And, one thing led to another. And here we are.
So how is that working for you?
So here's a funny thing. When I was at Ardenne, the teachers used to tell you, hey, you must reread what you write. I never did. I'm like, why would I want to reread it? I just wrote it. And now as a speaker, as someone who writes articles, as someone who's written 2 books, I realize the value of rereading. And so a skill that I have resisted in high school, I employ. But I absolutely love what I do as a motivational speaker, Mark. I kind of feel when I'm on stage, I feel like I'm on purpose. This is.
I'm seeing you here. Look at you in this dashing tan suit with pink shirt.
Hey, photoshopping is amazing, isn't it?
What's going on there? You were like,
this speech was actually in Montego Bay a couple of years ago. A group called A-Fest. They meet all over the world, and they were having their thing in Jamaica, and they invited me to come and share the bobsled story. Now, people hear about being a motivational speaker. Wow, how do you get in that? I want to do that. And it's not just getting up on stage and blabbering off. It actually requires a lot of work in obviously the story doesn't change, right? I'm from Waterhouse, I went to Ardenne, joined the Army, blah, blah, blah. But then how do you make your story relatable to the group that you're speaking to? That's where the real work comes in. And that's where, quite frankly, some of the training that I got at Ardenne, pay dividends, as much as English wasn't necessarily one of my favorite subjects, but I did well. yeah, it requires some work, you know, it requires, you know, all the stuff. And I tell kids all the time that when you're in school, you're actually learning how to learn. You know,
Right.
so when you get a project, that's what you're doing, because everything in that last slide that you showed is me demonstrating the fact that I have learned, and I guess still learning how to learn. I had to learn how to write a book. I had to learn how to publish a book. You know, you go do your research. So you have to learn how to craft and present an effective speech. And so that's what I do. So this picture, go ahead, sorry.
Tell me about this picture, yes.
Yeah, so a number of years ago, these are students from my old primary school, Jews Avenue Primary. Quite a
Waterhouse.
And yeah, ended up at Ardenne from Jews Avenue. Jews Avenue is where Waterhouse Football Club has their mini stadium. So a number of years I went back there, and I'm speaking to the principal. I'm like, so what's the biggest challenge you're facing? And it was many of the kids were coming to school hungry. And you know the situation. If you go to school hungry, you can't learn, you don't get educated, and you miss the bus. And I so clearly remember, Mark, at the end of sixth form, summer of '84. Now this is where, you know, reality and dream collide. Because I've had this dream of being an army officer, but the reality is that there's a chance that I might not get selected. As I said, I'm top pick of only 3 from 33. And I remember the sense of despair I felt. What if this thing don't work out? What next? And so I know I can't erase that feeling of despair from every child in Waterhouse, but I can do I can do something to try and at least ease it and to put them, give them a fighting chance, you know. And so we started a breakfast program. We started a school supplies program, as you see there. We've actually given school supplies to maybe 10 schools, you know, Ma Valley, Balcom Drive, Balmagie, Seaward, All Age, all the way down to Coburn Gardens and so on. Right now at the school, I'm halfway through building a sick bay. You know, kids who aren't feeling well can be there, and also for the guidance counselor to have a private place to counsel some of them, because you know, they're coming from really some nightmarish environments at home. So we're working on that, and then I have a really ambitious project that I'm working on now to create what I'm calling the Jamaica Digital Academy, where we provide digital, you know, technical computer training, software training to kids from disadvantaged communities. So that's a long journey. We're getting closer, but we haven't pulled the plug on it yet, or pulled the trigger on it yet.
But remarkable. Yeah. That's remarkable. You haven't told us anything about family.
Yeah, man. So
tell us about it.
Yeah, as much as I'm in the public eye, Mark, I really, and if you go online, you'll see some pictures, and I have obvious answers when I'm asked. So I'm married. I have 5 kids. My oldest, Devon, I thought I'd give him a good start in life.
No pressure, poor child.
Yes, I know, poor thing. Didn't work. It backfired. He's only Jamaican born of my children, and he lives in Tokyo now, married, getting ready to be a grandfather in June. So I'm gonna have a Japanese grandson. Gonna have to go down to Hardware and Lumber to get a 2x6 for him, you know. We'll see how that works. My wife is Grenadian. We have 3 girls. My oldest daughter lives in Madrid. She's teaching English there. Okay. And you know, I have another son who is in Atlanta. He's wrapping up college. He's with the Jamaican girl. My 2 sons are the Jamaican girl. And then my 2 youngest daughters, Summer is 12 and Cameron is 9. They're home, working and pushing them out so I can be an empty nester. No, but family life is great, man. I mean, you know, people ask all the time, and of all the accomplishments, so to speak, the thing I'm most proud of is being a dad. You know, that's my most awesome, most solemn responsibility, and you know, the thing I live for.
Excellent. Are you as hard on your children as you're hard on yourself?
I'm learning.
That?
I think my oldest son Devon kind of
Okay.
brunt of it, and unfortunately for him, you know, because I was, you know, kind of still in the army, still fresh out of the army, making that transition. But yeah, I made no. They know, you know, and I said I made no apologies for expecting excellence. And yeah, so they know what time it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. You're a good old Jamaican father.
This is true.
So don't push it. Don't know. What is it? Keep pushing.
No, keep on pushing. Yeah, keep on pushing.
Keep on pushing. Your personal philosophy, and you've been using this to inspire people all over the world.
Indeed. So it obviously has a bobsled analogy, you know, and I describe it. I describe the bobsled start. You know, to the untrained eye, what they see is one massive action, but it's actually a process. You know, a 4-man bobsled, as you're watching there, is about 650 pounds, and so at the outset, you need a massive amount of energy to get over the inertia, the initial inertia, right? But once you have done, if you were to stop right there, the sled would probably come to a halt. So you have to continue with the process, you know, getting into your kind of full running form, and you only stop pushing when you are running as fast as the sled is going. But then, in a way, in an interesting way, when you get in the sled, certainly the driver has to continue this philosophy of continuing to push, because you're pushing against the ice conditions, the weather conditions, and you're dealing with the twists and turns as you're heading down the track. And you're also working really hard to do better than you did the run before. You know, when you watch track and field, your competitors to your left and your right, they're right there, you can see them. When you're in bobsledding, it's just you. And you are, in the end, yes, you're racing against other guys, but first and foremost, you're racing against yourself. You're trying, because it's your best effort that then they will match against others, right? So in life, what do? We have to keep on pushing. We all start with whatever circumstances we find ourselves in, and you kind of have to push against those circumstances, but then to get to the next level, to continue to grow, which we're all created to do, you have to keep pushing, keep expanding your vision. You know, figuring a way to use your existing skills and abilities to apply them, because we live in this constantly changing environment. So how do you use what you already have to get to the next level? How do a little youth from Waterhouse who couldn't win a 100-meter race at Ardenne, of all places, end up on a bobsled team, which is mostly, certainly at the beginning, sprint based, right? You take what you have learned and developed, and, you know, to include, I want to say, a sense of determination and force of will to push against any and all obstacles that stand in your way. And look, and if you can't get over the damn things, then you have to find a way to get around them, or under them, or
through them.
Whatever it takes, man. That's, you know, that's a keep on pushing philosophy.
Inspiring words. I just want us to close with a scenario. So picture this. You are back at Ardenne, Olson Hall, and in the audience are not the students there now, but all the Ardenites who may have known you and heard of you, or past students, and they are sitting in the audience and they want a great word from you that will lift them over the hump, that will inspire them, take them to the next level. What would you say to them?
You know, when you enter the grounds of Ardenne, that the main office building is our crest. And I remember my first day at Ardenne. I got there before it was dark when I got there, and I saw the crest, and I was reading it, and I wondering if it was Spanish, you know, Latin. Dio Duque Quarry Optimus, what kind of guy we see the highest and the best. I mean, that is inculcated in our Ardenne experience, I think. I mean, but it's not just words, Mark. It's a charge. It's an encouragement. It's an exhortation, right? And I think, you know, whether or not I'm not talking about religion here now. I'm talking about this being, that's inside of every single one of us. And there's this thing in every one of us that says, man, you can do better, you can do more, you know. Listen to that. You know, my challenge to everyone is to all of us, all our optimites, all these valiant youth, is to listen to that little thing inside of you that, man, I want more. I want more. I can do more, actually. And seek to be your best. That's really what the keep on pushing philosophy is. It's kind of Dio Duque Quarry Optimo is because I'm not so verbose, I just come up with 3 words: keep on pushing. I've never thought about this before, but I realize it's the same philosophy that I've grown up with. We have all grown up with it, and I just think that we have been given the tools at Ardenne. Go off and then seek what we determine to be our best. Because it's an individual journey, and so let's do that. Let's go out and seek the best, however we define the best.
Excellent, powerful way to end this conversation, Devon Pele Harris. Really great talking to you today, Devon. And we're certainly looking forward to seeing you in Atlanta. Hope you do make the trip. I think you're getting a special award.
Yes, you know, so I am really looking forward to the event. I have to, I guess, announce that there is some difficulty with me getting there. I'm trying to find my way back from Europe. My daughter, as I mentioned, is teaching in Madrid, and that trip was planned before this and before the announcement, and it's just, it's aching my heart at the possibility that I may not be there. But I'm trying everything to get there. But that, you know, let me say, you know, real quick, you know, how appreciative I am of the award as well, of the recognition. I think we all know that as Jamaicans, we don't give out praises easily. And for Jamaicans to do that, but more so my peers, I think the highest, I put so much stock in being recognized by my peers. That, you know, it's hard to come up with words to say how appreciative I am of this recognition.
Excellent. Thank you, Devon.
Yeah,
and thank you all for watching this very special conversation with Devon Pele Harris. Remember, the Great Ardenne Alumni Reunion takes place between July 19 and 21 in Atlanta, Georgia. If you haven't yet registered, you need to register now. You need to go and find a cheap ticket to get to Atlanta. Whether you're in Europe or wherever, in China, in Japan, find a way to make it to Atlanta. All roads lead to Atlanta, Georgia that weekend. So thank you all for being with us. Stay tuned. Devon will be taking questions after this conversation. And I'm sure he wants to hear your special questions and to talk more with you. So keep on pushing, Ardenne alumni.